So in this video, we are going to see how we can implement early unmanaged numbering and why we are seeing this video before the create operation. Because early numbering provides you a primary key and which will be used while creating a new record. This early unmanaged numbering is, if we try to understand at a very high level, this is mainly used to generate a key field for the record which you are creating using unmanaged scenario. And this early numbering works in the interaction phase. There we already have seen there are two different phases where the code get executed. One is interaction phase and another is a save sequence. Early numbering is implemented by adding this keyword, which is early numbering, in behavior definition of your entity. And it automatically assign a key to business object entity instance during the method create and create by association. So when a record is getting created which needs to be saved into the database, the very first thing which is needed here is, or in every language, a primary key should be available. In this case, since we are using unmanaged scenario, we need to create that primary key value for our database table. And since the data gets saved into the save sequence, when save sequence gets executed, our data goes to database, or we can say in the persistent state. But till before execution of the save sequence, we should have some key which gets generated, which should be used to identify current data which is getting created uniquely. In that case, system provides a CID field, percentage CID, which is content ID, and later on the value of that CID is assigned to PID, which stands for preliminary identification number. Now, when we implement this early numbering, or when we add this early numbering keyword in the behavior definition of the entity and activate that entity, generating the implementation class, basically, these are the two methods which get generated. This method is not mandatory, but this method will surely get generated. This method is early numbering underscore create, which will work for our main entity, which is our student. Now, if you have any association available, then in that case, this method gets generated. Early numbering CBA, which stands for create by association, and your association name, which in our case is results. Entities for create operation of this entity or this association. Students association. Okay, so these are the two methods which gets created when we activate our behavior definition for the entity. Now let's see in the code in behavior definition how we have write this early numbering. Now to see that, we need to go to behavior definition of our root entity. Double click on this. And if you see this line, this is what the keyword called early numbering. And there is another keyword which is late numbering. We probably will see this in upcoming videos. So as soon as you write this keyword, activate it and generate the implementation class, you will see two different methods. So let's go to our implementation class which we generated in our last video. If you open this is our implementation class. If you see here, this is the method which got generated for student entity, early numbering underscore create, and this is the another method which got generated for association, since we also have association with results, student and result. The method name is early numbering create by association and the association result. This will work for create operation, or early numbering underscore create method for generating our primary key value using early numbering concept. For that, we will be writing a method in our API class, and we will be calling that method inside this implemented method here. Okay, so to get the method definition, So click on this method name and you can press F2. See, we got the full method definition here. We have got importing and changing parameter. The importing parameter name is entities and this is what the type is. We have three different changing parameter. One is mapped, failed and reported. What are all these changing parameter? We have already seen in our managed scenario video series. Now to create a method, let's copy this full method here. Select and copy. And now let's go to our API class. Now in the API class, we will be creating a method inside our definition. So let's open this comment and paste it here. Delete all of these comment lines and change the name student. Now we have the method here, but we do not have these types available currently. So let's create the types, copy and tt underscore create underscore student, and we need to define this table type here, tt underscore create underscore student, and type will be this type, comma. Now the second parameter is response for mapped early. Copy this and comment out tt underscore mapped underscore early, tt underscore mapped underscore early, and type is this. Now the third parameter is response for failed early. So this would be tt underscore response early and type is this. The last parameter which we have here is response for reported early. So copy this tt and reported early. This method is done. Now tt dot. Now we have got all of our types here available, and our method error is also gone from here. Now we need to implement this method. Click on this bulb and add an implementation. See, we got our implementation here. Let's activate it. It got activated. Now since in our previous video we have created this class data which we used as a global variable. So let's create another global variable here for gs underscore mapped, and type would be tt mapped early. Okay, we will be using this parameter later on here. Now let's start creating this method. Very first thing which we will do is we will create a local variable which will have the value from this parameter. This is done. Now the next thing which we need to do here is, since we are creating a new record and we need to have a primary key for our key field in the table. Now let's see what key field we are talking about. Open student unmanaged table, and this is our key field which is of type GUID and it's 16. So we need to generate a key here which will later on assign to this field. So let's do that. For that, we will be using standard class, which will help us generating the value for this key field. Let's write data lb underscore new id. Id is our key field, and the class which we are using here is cl underscore uuid factory class, and then create system uuid, and what type of GUID we want? We want X16 here. Okay, control space and shift enter. Okay, nothing is happening. Okay, so we will, oh, we have used convert. We need to use create. Okay, now got it. Okay, so we will get a new ID here. Now, what we need to do here is whatever is coming from this table, this global table, since when we will click on the create button, this table will be empty, but there may be some scenario where we are working on the draft table. In that case, we will get some value in this global table. So let's update this table also if we get a value inside this. How we are going to update this? This is basically a buffer table update. So we will try to read this table first. Read table this, assigning field symbol and lfs underscore student index 1, and if we get any value in this, we will check if this is assigned index. If this is assigned, then we will be putting the ID value here. This is our key field. This will get the value of new ID which we have just generated. And then once this is done, let's unassign it. Activate. Now this much is done, but still if a key field is generated or a value has been generated for a key field, we need to show that key value field onto the front end as well. When the form will be opened for user to enter a new record for a new student. So for that, let's see what are the returning parameters we have here. Click on F2, and this is the changing parameter we have, which is mapped, and we already know the functionality of this map. This map parameter is used to send the data from backend to front end, and that's what we want here right now, to send the newly generated key to the front end. So let's copy this, and so mapped parameter is of which entity? We are working on student entity. Select student entity, and then we will be passing the values here. Now where we will get the values? What is the importing parameter for this? So entities is the importing parameter. So copy this, and now whatever value coming into entity, we want to update this new field ID value to that entity back. For that, we will write entities in this, and we are only interested in the record where this ID field is blank. This is done. Now we will be updating these values. Now there are concept of some of the parameters which are mandatory to be passed when you are creating any record using RAP, and that's a part of RAP best practice. That's what we are going to do now. What are those parameters are? Let's do F2 on entities and click on this type. Now if you see here, we are seeing percentage CID, percentage is draft, and all of the other fields which are available inside our database table. Okay, so these are the two fields which we need to pass here. From these two fields, this percentage CID is mandatory to be passed whenever you are creating a record using unmanaged scenario. That's a part of best practice. So that's what we are going to do now. How to pass that? Control space percentage CID, and the value would be available inside the entity already. So let's map this. Then percentage is draft. This will also be there. And then the last field is ID field, which is a key field. So you need to pass percentage CID, which stands for content ID, and the main key field which you are generating. This will have the value of LV new ID which we have created. And this is done. Now activate our method. It got activated. Now the only thing which is pending here is we need to call this method back in the behavior implementation class. So let's copy this. How we are going to call? We first need to create an object of this our API class, and then we will call this method. So for that, let's get the class name first, copy, and go to our behavior implementation early numbering create method. Get instance, and then if this is created, we will have our method. We got the signature as well. Now finally, let's pass all of the value which are coming, which are already there as it is. And everything is done now. Okay. Anything else is pending? No, we do not need to do anything else here. Now let's go to our service binding and double click on student. See, our application is getting loaded. Till now, no issue. Now let's click on the create. If you remember in our last video, when we click on the create button, we were getting a dump and a pop-up here. Let's see now. Okay, we got a breakpoint here. Let's see what's going on here. So GS mapped. We got GS mapped here. See, we have two different entities available, student and result. Now we are creating a new GUID here. Do an F6. Double click on new ID. See, our ID got generated. Now GT student will be blank. This is blank. So this read will fail here. And now what we are doing here, we are sending back this value which we have generated to the front end. Now let's see what are all the things available in entity. So our entities is having one record and with CID which framework has generated, is draft is none, and ID is still 0 because we haven't yet mapped this value. Now do F6 and go to student entities and Here it is. So math and student, and we have one record here. See, we got our CID assigned, our draft assigned, and our ID assigned. Okay, now do F8 here. And yeah, see, our application is now opening and working correctly. Here is the number which got generated for the ID field using early numbering concept. So in next video, we will be writing a code to save this record into our database table, or we will send all of these entry into the persistent state. That's all for now in this video, and if you like the content, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you.